Hello, welcome back to the channel. I'm Phil Hinton and this is the LG G6. Now, if you're watching this as this settings video goes live on our channel, then my review isn't published just yet. One of the reasons for that is that I was possibly the first, or certainly one of the first reviewers last year to find the issues with the LG G5 and to report on those and to work with LG to get those resolved on that model. I have the G6 here for review and I'm intending to take my time with this review and make sure that all of those issues that we highlighted last year are resolved in the new G6. And first impressions are this is a really impressive TV, and we'll cover all of that in the video review. If you're watching this video a little bit later, the review may be published, and if that's the case, you'll see a card top right of the screen which will take you to the review video. But of course you can stick with this because we're going to go through the best settings out of the box for this TV, and I'll also show you some of the new menu systems and some of the new menu structures that LG have added for this year, for 2026. So first of all, we're going to long press the settings button, the cogwheel on your remote control, which brings up the settings. Now, I did a full factory reset on this LG G6 before shooting this video, so I can take you through the full setup process from the first time you switch it on, and making sure that you have the best settings out of the box. Now, this is not a calibration video. I'm not going to set the meter up or the pattern generator or Calman or anything like that, and I'm not going to calibrate the TV for you because each calibration is different for each and every TV and each and every system that TV is used in, your source components and everything else. And if you're going to perform a proper calibration, then you do need the correct gear, the correct software, and you need to perform that calibration in situ with that TV. What I'm going to show you here though is the best settings out of the box for this TV. But before we do any of that, we need to switch some things off that are in the menus and also go through some of the new menu features that are here. So the first thing that you may notice if you're familiar with LG TVs is that this menu on the side here has changed. The first thing is that the background is much darker on the G6 menus than it were on the G5 and earlier models. That's because it makes the menu stand out that little bit better. You also notice that general and system, well, system is new. It used to just be a general menu that you went in and you had everything under this general menu. Now it's just down to accessibility, AI service, game optimizer, that kind of thing in here. The system menu, it now has your network, your external devices, energy saving, initial settings and additional settings and all that kind of thing. This is the menu we're going to start in. So you're going to start in the system menu and we're going to go to energy saving. This is the most important setting that you can make on your new LG G6. So you're going to click in here, we're going to go to energy saving step and we're going to switch this to off, and then we're going to click OK, and then I'm just going to check that my exposure on the camera is still okay because the screen has gotten a little bit brighter. So why have we done that? Well, if you set it to auto, then the TV will adjust the brightness of the image throughout the day. It will change between content and so on, and you're not getting the best possible picture quality from your LG G6. So we're going to switch that off. Yes, it will use a tiny bit more energy, but you've spent almost £3,000 initially on this TV. If you bought it right at release, you want the best picture quality. So we're going to switch that off. We're then going to go back to the system menu, to the energy saving. Auto power off, this annoys the hell out of me. Your mileage may vary, you may like to set it so if you do fall asleep in front of the TV, it switches itself off. I always just switch this off because I know when I want to switch the TV off, so I will do that. Then we're going to go down to additional settings here. We're going to go into home settings and home promotion. So this is the advertising that you see on WebOS 26, the top third, and also the little adverts that appear next to your tiles. We're going to switch that off. The next one is content recommendation. You can leave this switched on if you like, and it will recommend content to you based on what you watch on the TV and so on. I'm going to switch it off, but again, your mileage may vary on that one. But the main one here is home promotion. And we'll click back one step. We're also going to go to screensaver settings and screensaver promotions. We're going to click that off as well because we don't want any adverts appearing at all on the TV. So we'll come out of this as well, and that's everything that we need to set up in the additional settings menu in here. So the next one we're going to jump to is general, and we're going to jump in here and we're going to go to OLED care. And now we're going to go to OLED panel care. Now, a couple of things here. So in here, your screen does move. It moves by 1 pixel. It's supposed to do that. It helps combat image retention if you have static images on screen for any length of time. Just by moving the screen around by 1 pixel, it prevents any image retention. But what it does do is, obviously, it's overscanning the image. So if we click that, you'll see that it adjusted there. You can leave this on. I'm not saying that you should switch this off. You can leave it switched on if you like. If you are a little bit worried about image retention and so on, then that's entirely up to you. I like to switch it off because I know that I'm going to be using filmmaker mode, which is not overly bright or not too bright that it's going to leave any static or image retention on screen. The other thing I'm going to switch off is adjust logo brightness. So if you have HUDs or scores that appear on football and so on, what it can do is it can dim the image, and you don't want that. Now, again, it does that to try and prevent image retention. Again, it's up to you whether you leave this setting switched on. I'm going to set it switched off because I trust myself not to have things on screen long enough that are going to be any issue for image retention. Again, your mileage may vary on that one, and it's entirely up to you if you're going to switch that off. Then we're going to come back out of this menu, and that's everything that we need to set in the general menu and the system menu. And again, these have been separated out this year just to make things a little bit easier for users, so you can find under system, you can find everything else. The only other thing you need to do is support. If you want to check that your software is up to date and so on, this is the current version that I'm using on this set here. You can click the button, check for updates. I tend to switch auto update off because I like to check what the TV wants to upload to the TV before I allow it. I keep saying this, but your mileage may vary on that one. Right, so let's get into picture settings. So before we go into anything in here in any great detail, the first thing we're going to do, you all know it by now, you know the script here. We're going to select this filmmaker mode, and bang, we're going to do that, and that is that set. Now the other thing is aspect ratio. We're going to go in here, we're going to change it to original, because you want the original aspect ratio. We're going to go into just scan, and we're going to switch that on. And again, that stops overscan, it switches overscan off. Right, advanced settings. There's not a lot that we need to do in here to set this up, but there's a few things that I want to show you in here that have changed since last year as well. Now, the main thing here is OLED pixel brightness. Now, if you are in a bright room, set to 80, I measured this at 400 nits brightness, which is very, very bright. So this really is for a bright room. This is the default, is 80%. If you want to be entirely accurate and you want to watch things as they're intended in a dark room, then you want to come all the way down to 8. And 8 is 100 nits, and that is the industry standard 100 nits for watching SDR content. That's important, SDR content. We're not saying HDR, we're saying SDR content. So if you're in a dark room and you want to watch things as they were mastered and intended to be seen, you need to come down to this. Depending on how bright your room is, then you want to set this brightness control to kind of match that, so you're not losing shadow detail in the shadows and so on. If you're in a very bright room, you can do that. So you might want to come back up to 80, which is the default. And like I said, that's 400 nits measured brightness on that one. Right, we're going to come down here and we're just going to check that everything is set the way we want it to be set. Another thing is if you are in a room where the lighting changed during the day, so it's brighter during the day because you've got daylight coming in the room, and then in the evening you're closing the blinds and curtains, so the room's darker. If you switch filmmaker mode ambient on, it uses the light sensor, so if you're in a dark room it's not going to apply anything to the image. But if you're in a brighter room, then it will adjust the brightness using the light sensor, so you're not losing that shadow detail, you're not looking at crushed blacks and that kind of thing, and it's not raising it too much that it changes the creator's intent either. It's perfectly okay to use this. This has been approved as a mode by creatives, so you can use that as well. So yeah, so that's everything in the menus here that I wanted to go through. The only other thing is color. We're going to go down to white balance, and just something to point out here that has changed for this year. We now have a 24-point signal level white balance control, grayscale control. So if we go into that, you will notice now that your signal level, we can go all the way down. Let me do this quickly as possible. So we now have 1, 2, 3, 5, 7.5. So near black. If you have the correct gear, and you do need calibration gear and meters and so on to be able to do it, but you can set the grayscale all the way down to near black and get near black dialed in. It's perfect as you like at that point. So yeah, 24 point is excellent. And if you're going to get your TV calibrated, and I do recommend that you do get your TV professionally calibrated, then your calibrator can go in there and really dial your TV in your system. Right, so that's everything that we need to cover in here for SDR, standard dynamic range content. So that's almost your everyday content. We'll come back with HDR next. Okay, so I'm now feeding the TV an HDR signal. How do we know that? Well, we're going to long press the cogwheel on the remote control, and it tells you there, HDR select mode. So you know that you're in HDR when it says HDR select mode. You know that you're in Dolby Vision mode because it'll say Dolby Vision select mode. You need to be playing HDR content on the TV. I'm playing the Spears & Munsell Blu-ray disc, 4K Blu-ray disc. I can change it from SDR to HDR10 to HDR Dolby Vision and so on in HLG. You just need to play HDR content. You'll find that on streaming services, on 4K Blu-ray and so on. Just make sure you're playing that, then select the menu and it will tell you that you're adjusting the HDR select menu. So once you've got this, we don't need to do any of the general or system because we've already done that. It's all set up. We also don't need to do the aspect ratio. We've already done that in the first steps of this video, so we don't need to touch that either. All we need to do, you've guessed it already, is go here, HDR select mode, and go to filmmaker mode, and bang, that is it, we are done. You can go into advanced settings and just check that everything is set up. The main one here is to make sure that dynamic tone mapping is switched off. It should be if you're in filmmaker mode because it switches all the unwanted dynamic modes and so on off, so you're seeing the image as it's intended to be seen. So just make sure that that is switched off. There is an interesting feature in here for professionals. So if you are a professional and you want to use your LG G6 for color grading and grading HDR content and so on, you can do that in here. There are controls here for you to set where you want the TV to clip. If you're a content creator, you already know where you want your TV to clip and so on. We can switch the professional mode on here. It's already telling you what the mastering is on this content. So I've set this to HDR10 1000 nits. That's what it's playing back here. If it was 4000, it would say 4000. 10,000, it would say 10,000 here. So this is new here, telling you what the mastering level is. Also new here is the tone mapping gain. And basically what this does is, if you've seen any of the graphs on my reviews or anybody else's reviews where we measure the HDR tone curve, all this does is if you press to the left, it's going to move that curve towards the left. If you press it right, it's going to move it towards the right by 5 clicks and towards the left by 5 clicks. Why would you need this? Well, when you measure the TV, and again this is aimed at professionals with the correct measuring devices and so on, when you measure the TV, if your tone curve is off into the dark area, so it's off to the right, and you need to brighten it up a little bit, you can take it to the left and it moves the whole curve towards the left, and it brightens that curve up a little bit. And you can see very slight changes here in the background as well when I do that. The other new thing here is that obviously 1000, 4000, 10,000, so you can select your clipping point here or where you want, how you want the TV to roll off and so on in here. If you forget what the defaults are, you now have a reset button. So that's all new for this year. But again, it's only really for professional users, those users who have the correct measuring gear and so on. So your professional calibrator, if he comes to your home under calibration as a service or anything like that, they can obviously come in here and fix this area and fix the tone curve by using this. And it also tells you what the mastering nit value was, what container that the content was mastered and graded in. So that's everything that we need to do for HDR. We're all set up here. So the next one is Dolby Vision. So like I said in the last segment of this video, the TV will tell you what mode you're in when it comes to HDR and what signal that you're watching. So you need to be watching Dolby Vision content for it to bring this menu up, and it will say Dolby Vision select mode here. You've guessed what we're going to do here if you've ever watched one of my settings videos. We're going to go into filmmaker mode. The reason for this is filmmaker mode is set up out of the box to get as close as possible to what the content creator intended. It's not calibration. Calibration is different in terms of it's going to calibrate your entire system, and that calibration is going to be set to your viewing environment as well. So your contrast levels, your brightness levels, all that kind of thing is going to be set for your viewing environment and so on. And your professional calibrator who comes out is going to do all of that. Filmmaker mode gets you in the ballpark. It is a factory calibration that each of the TVs go through on the production line. It's not going to be absolutely bang on, but it's going to be as close as possible between all of the image settings on your TV to get you to that point. If you don't want to be at that point, that is perfectly fine. Nobody's telling you what you should be doing with your own TV. It's up to you. But if you really do want to watch content as it was made and mastered, and everything from sports to TV to documentary to film, it's all made within the same container, the same standards container or envelope. And as long as your TV is set up to cover that same container or envelope, you're going to see everything that's intended to be seen. So yeah, we're going to set that to filmmaker mode. There's nothing else that we need to do in this menu. That's you all set up now out of the box. Again, things that you can do just to make this obviously suit your room and your viewing environment is obviously go into brightness, and you can come down to filmmaker mode ambient. Click that on if your room changes between the day and night viewing. That way the light sensor in the TV is going to measure the light in the room, and it's going to adjust the picture accordingly without damaging that creative intent that's meant by filmmaker mode. So switching that on is going to get you the best possible picture brightness. Depending on the brightness in your room during the day, it will boost that brightness up without clipping detail, but it will stop you also seeing crushed blacks and losing shadow detail in the blacks in a brighter room. In a black room, it's going to do nothing because you're watching it in a dim room, and it's going to adjust it for that. And that's it. That's everything that you need to do. If this video has been useful, then please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel. We've got lots of settings videos coming this year. Every TV that I review, my intention is to make a settings video to give you the best out of the box settings, not calibration settings, but the best out of the box settings for your TV this year. So I'm going to be doing that throughout 2026. Like I say, if you're watching this video when it comes out, this setting video when it comes out, my review is not there just yet on the channel for the G6. It will appear on AVForums first of all, so keep an eye on the homepage on AVForums for the written review, and then the video review will follow a few days later. If you're watching this video a little bit later on in the year and the review is available, you'll find a link to it in the description of this video, so you can go and watch that review or read the review or both. And there might even be a card at the top right of the screen as well. But I'm Phil Hinton. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one. Goodbye.